Coming up on the show today, I'll be introducing you all to a friend of mine, Brandon, who on occasion also goes by the name Mya. That's Mya Crafone to all of you. Brandon is a Gold Coast-based drag artist who can often be found doing her thing as Mya in venues all over the place, including a very well received pre-COVID stint at the Balcony Bar in Byron Bay. Brandon, Mya, how are you, my love?
Hello, Shaun. I'm doing very, very well, thank you. Like, enjoying life as best as we can in a post-COVID world, I guess, now.
Yeah.
So just getting back to normality. My day-to-day job as Brandon is going, I was going to say swimmingly because we're right on the beach, but I won't do that because that's corny.
Love a pun. Love a pun.
We all love a good pun. But yeah, no, my day-to-day job as Brandon's going amazingly. And life as Mya is slowly starting to pick back up, which I'm so excited to get back into.
Glad to hear it. So how has this 2020 pandemic affected you and your performances this year?
Well, so it affected me massively in my day-to-day job because unfortunately, like many others, COVID made me redundant. So my essentially assistant manager position at the cafe I was working at, I lost my job a month after we went into quarantine. Essentially, the company sent out an email, wait, we're not bringing any of you back, we're closing down, sorry. It's like, fuck, okay, so am I allowed to swear?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, oh fuck, thank God. Good.
Thank fucking God.
Oh God, yeah, thank God for no kids.
Cheers to that, my love. Cheers to that.
But yeah, so I lost my job, unfortunately. So then we spent about a month on the job seeker. I hated that. Like, as someone who lives to work, essentially, like I need to constantly be busy, spending a month at home, being unable to leave the house and just be at home was driving me insane.
There's only so many costume changes you can do in a day.
And I was literally going through my stuff and just putting stuff on and being like, yeah, glamorous. And then playing with hair and just going, yep, that's fabulous. But then life as Mya as well, COVID kind of put everything at a standstill.
Because your socials had you looking really busy before COVID as Mya.
Yeah, I was constantly busy. I was doing 2 trivia shows a week. I was going down to Byron once a month. We had shows as part of Mixed Nuts constantly lined up, 1 or 2 a month. And then COVID hit and boom, gone, everything. Even now with the remainder of the year, they're only just slowly starting to come back. And I'm like, are we even going to get back to what we were pre-COVID?
It's so weird, isn't it?
It's
so strange.
It's actually scary because the world post-COVID is going to be completely different. It's going to be a new normal.
Yeah, well, that's what they keep telling me, and I don't like it. I've got to say,
No.
I'm not loving it. Not loving the
No.
terminology, you know, the we're all in this together bullshit. No, thanks.
We're all in this together. Some of us,
Yeah,
others
depending
that can
on
afford
where
it.
You rank in the hierarchy, we're all in this together.
Was just about to say that.
All right, let's take it back. So, obviously, you're looking absolutely fabulous this evening. For those people who are listening, Mya is bringing out her glam. I almost want to say housewife vibes. Like we've got a negligee, we've got the girls on display. She's got that updo for the the chores that a lady must do.
Like I said to you, I'm giving you a very rich, elegant woman whose husband has died in mysterious circumstances, and she doesn't know a thing about it.
I love it. Okay, so this is you tonight, but can I ask how and when did you first get into drag?
Oh, that's a very good question. So I was managing Escape, the gay bar on the Gold Coast here at the time, and I was very much I want to say anti-gay gay guy. I had a lot of internalized homophobia.
Relatable. I think we all kind of go through that. I think I still have a little bit of it, and I try to manage it.
Told me too. I look at all these young ones running around being as free as they want, and I go, no, no, you have to go through the hardships that we went through. No, you don't get it like that.
That's right. And we didn't even do it hard compared to the ones before us.
No.
Like,
Oh
we
God,
have no
no.
idea.
But yeah, so I was managing the club at the time, and a couple of the queens that were regular performers were just like, come on, just do it once, you'll have fun. And I was like, never, never in my life was I ever going to get up on stage and do this. Excuse me.
Oof.
It was very ladylike. And then 1 week I just turned around and went, okay, look, I'll do it once, get out of the way, then over and done with, and never again. So contacted one of my now really good friends, Martini, got her to put me in face for the very first time, bought a couple of cheap wigs off eBay, very cheap wigs off eBay. Got a really good close friend's mum to make my costumes, did my first show on stage and went, oh, I need to do this every week now.
What was your first show like?
So I thought I was serving glamour fish galore. No. Think of baby giraffe first time walking. That's what I was like in heels.
I mean, that's cute though.
Oh, not for a 6'1", good 88, 90 kilo, quite broad-shouldered man. Because back then, I look at photos from back then, from when I first started drag, and God, she was in shape. She was looking hot. I was like, I would hit on myself.
Girl, you look good now. I've seen your shower Insta posts. You're looking fine, hun.
Now, yes. But a lot of work goes into those photos. Trust. But yeah, I was just like, no, this is just amazing. This is something I need to do. Because I'm a born performer. And so it was just sort of like, as soon as I stepped on that stage, it was like, no, she's here. She's not going anywhere.
How was your identity of Mya Crafone? How was she born, and how did you get her name and her persona?
Well, so originally my very first choice for my drag name was Brandy Lane. So it was like a feminine version of my actual name.
Yeah.
And one of the other queens, she turned around and went, you can't do that. It has to be something completely different. Like, it can't have any ties to your boy name. You need it to be something different. I was like,
so there's rules to this?
Not rules, but it's just like the
unspoken rules.
Yeah, like back then it was a case of you wanted to try and separate the two identities as much as possible.
Okay.
So have two completely separate names. It's not the case these days. It's like everyone's living for, if your worlds mesh between your boy life and your drag, it's amazing. But so I picked that name, then had to choose something else. Then I already had my microphone tattoo.
Yes, I remember. This is how I first learnt that you did drag, was that we were working together and I caught a glimpse of it and I was like, what? Because I love tattoos. And I was like, what's this ink? And you rolled up your sleeve and you were like, it's my drag name. And I'm like, it's a microphone. And you were like, exactly.
Because yeah, it was just, so what, that same queen that said I couldn't have Brandy as my drag name was like, oh, what about we call you Mya Crafone because you've got the microphone tattoo? And I'm like, that sounds horrible. Mya Crafone?
Yeah,
like, no, that's ugh. I was like, if we're going to go that route, then it has to be Mya. Like Mya Crafone, because it's microphone.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh yeah, no, that works. I'm like, done, cool. And then we were tossing up how to spell it. And I was like, okay, so Mya, easy, M-Y-A, done. Crafone was the hard part because they're like, oh, just spell it like a normal microphone. I'm like, no, because when you just see that written down, it looks like crapone. No one's going to read it as crafone. They're going to read it as crapone. So no. So I was like,
I mean, that's almost like the Italian mafia version of your alter ego, Mya
Crapone. So yeah, I just was like, nah, it has to have an F, so that would then, and I thought an F over a PH is a little bit more classy.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
I feel that.
So I was like, yep, done, and boom, my microphone was born. And the personality just came. I I went from being we use the term butch loosely when we talk about my boy life. 'Cause we all know she ain't butch. But I went from being a butch presenting to all of a sudden this slutty, confident woman that was parading around in bras and panties and like rubbing herself in anything that moved. And I
We've all been
loved
there.
it. Oh, it's me on a Tuesday morning.
A friend of mine recently told me about something that I wasn't actually aware of in the drag community, the drag world. And that is drag families or drag houses where up and coming drag queens are adopted by drag mothers, which makes them a part of a drag family or a drag house. And I want to know, is this, and I feel like you kind of almost answered this earlier before we got into the episode because you did mention a drag daughter. But my question is this something that you've had in your experience on I guess on the Gold Coast, being a drag artist or a drag queen?
Yeah, so it is very common. Well, I want to say, sorry. Oh my God.
I did this recently with a friend of mine, and she had this. We did like a whole movies thing, and she had this banana with an angry face on it. And every time she wanted to cough or burp or yawn or sneeze, she'd just hold up this angry banana to the screen. It's hilarious. Just so you know.
Oh, see, I could have just been like, just look at these, distract.
Just
don't look up here. Yeah. But then we're gone from a PG show to that's an R18. So yeah, drag. The drag family thing is a lot more of an old school sort of mentality that still slowly carries on, but these days you don't see it as much as like a featured sort of part of the drag world.
See, I'd never heard of it, and I thought I was like, I would never consider myself incredibly well versed in the world of drag because I've never done it, and I have limited experience, which we'll get into later. But yeah, it was such a, when she told me just a couple of weeks ago, I was dumbfounded. I was like, wow, that's, first of all, that's incredibly supportive and so nice to be welcomed in that way. But yeah, I had no idea it was a thing.
So Martini Ice, who's one of my now ridiculously close personal best friends, she's my drag mother. So your drag mother is the first person that puts you in drag or puts you on stage.
So she's like a fairy drag mother.
Essentially, yeah. And then they help nurture you and help you grow as a performer. So Martini was always very, very strict. She's like, I'll do your face twice and then you're on your own.
Love that.
Because she's like, that's the only way you're going to learn. I was like, fair.
It's like a mother duck pushing you in.
Absolutely. It's like all right, you got your bearings, out you go on. Off on your own. But yeah, so she took me under her wing and helped nurture me. By some extent, I would guess, Justine Case in formerly Imogen Nation played some role as well, because they were the first who I ever did a show with. They're the first two that put me on stage. But then after about 2 years of me doing it, there was a gorgeous, tall, scared as hell drag queen named Aurora, who came to the club and then she's like, oh, I want to be a performer. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll put you on, a Friday night with me.
I'm getting like burlesque movie vibes here with Christina and Cher.
Ooh,
like,
yeah, okay.
Showing up,
yeah, very
wanting
much
to be a performer.
Yeah, like very much like that.
Is this the untold movie of drag in Australia that could outdo Priscilla that we might need to look into?
Possibly. That could be. But now I think about it, I'm like, who would I get to play me? Because, I can play myself amazingly, but who could play me? See, first and foremost, I would love to get Mariah to play me.
She should be so lucky.
Well, she practically is a drag queen anyway.
Well, yeah, there is that.
And this is coming from one of her hugest fans.
It's a compliment, Mariah. Calm down.
So Aurora, yeah, I put her on stage the first time, and then I helped nurture her, and she's like, essentially was like, "You're my drag mum," and I went, "I'm more than happy with that."
You're like, you're my
So
baby.
I never said that because that I was like,
Wait.
we'll never address each other like that way. But yes, I'm going to be a drag mum.
Alrighty.
But then Aurora's biological sister wanted to do drag as well. So I put her in drag as well, first time
When you say
on
biological
stage.
sister, we're talking
Like actual legitimate
gender
family.
assigned sister. Like she is
Yeah.
a female. So she wanted to do drag king.
No,
Or she
she
wanted
wanted
to
to be a drag.
just like be really a drag queen.
So a assigned at birth female that does feminine drag
Okay, cool.
is called they used to be called faux queens, but now they're just drag queens.
Girl,
We no
you're
longer have,
educating me. I didn't even know that this was a thing.
yeah, like doll, please. I got educated myself most recently because, again, like as we get older, you slowly start to realize you fall more and more out of touch with the young ones and how progressive they are. And you're like, I need to get up to your level. Otherwise I'm going to become one of those scared old angry white people that's like, get off my lawn.
Recount the ballots.
Yeah. That's a conversation that'll get us riled up. Trust us.
All right. So you had a drag daughter, and she had a
Yes.
biological sister who wanted to also do drag.
Yeah.
Let's pick it up from there.
So I put her on stage for the first time as well. And it was, let's just say they were both newbies to performing. So it went as good as possible can be.
Like watching Bambi learn to walk.
More like watching Bambi's mother at the start. And if they ever, no, they will hear this because they will. They'll know that that's said with love, because they both know how tragic it was at that first one. We did a trio number of Push the Button, and we're very, very grateful that that video was lost to the ether.
I will find it.
Oh, you won't, trust me, it's gone. But yeah, so Aurora's sister, we named her Ariel at the time.
That was her drag name?
Yeah, so you had Aurora and Ariel, because they both love Disney.
Love it.
But then Ariel transitioned into drag king and became Archie. So
okay, cool.
My drag children are Aurora Arsenic and Archie Arsenic. Archie's quite prominent now in the burlesque world, performs amazingly up in Brisbane, was in Melbourne, has come back up to Brisbane, performs amazing like burlesque shows, does a lot with fire play and with Kryptonite's Freak Circus. And Aurora, my gorgeous drag daughter, has just recently come out as a trans woman. So I was so happy for her. So I've got, I for someone who's got no maternal bone in her body and despises children, I'm so proud of my drag children. Like, it makes me go, I've got two gorgeous drag babies that are doing so well for their life. It makes me so happy.
That's amazing. Congrats, Mama.
Oh, thank you. But again, that all comes down to my teachings though from Martini. So like it's stuff passed down from generation to generation of drag.
What is the drag king scene like here on the Gold Coast? Do we have one? I know that there is a vibrant community of performers in Brisbane, but what do we have going on here on the Gold Coast for drag kings, if anything at all?
We actually don't.
Well, that's a letdown.
So yeah, we don't have any currently performing drag kings on the Gold Coast. And as far as I'm aware, there's none in Brisbane either.
I know of one, and the only reason I know of one, and to be honest, if they're listening to this, I apologize because it's all secondhand information. A friend of mine who runs her own podcast, who's a really, really close friend of mine. She has a very good friend who is a drag king performer. Can't think of their name, and it's going to be a bad edit to try and edit this whole section.
So they perform in
Sev.
Brisbane?
Their name is Sev, but I feel that's their...
Lord Sev.
Yes, Lord Sev.
Okay, well, there we go. I
know of one, and that's the only one.
I would never have classified Lord Sev as a drag king. Purely because I always thought Lord Sev was a burlesque performer.
Maybe, you know what, maybe I should go on the record as saying I might be wrong, in case Lord Sev listens to this. Just, you know, if you want to fact check me, go ahead, send me some DMs. I will put up an on-air apology. It's fine. But
I do love Lord Sev. So we performed together a couple of years ago in a competition in Brisbane, and I absolutely fell in love with them. They were hilarious. I can't tell you the number that they did because I can't remember the song in my head. I remember the performance though, because it involved boobs out and deep throating a dildo.
Love that.
Yeah. So, and I was just like, you are amazing. My hats are off to you.
On a separate note, girl, tell those birds to quieten down. Can you do like a Disney number? You know, like in the Disney, like where they like sing the song and the birds
and they'll disappear.
Yeah.
I really can't turn my neck though with this, so that's why I'm like, I'm gonna have to just casually turn like this so I can try
body.
See.
They heard you. I love it. So, all right. So I remember when I first came out when I was 18, I was living in the UK. I started working on the gay scene in the clubs. And a lot of the time, the drag performers, particularly the DJs, were just really mean to people. And to be honest, it made me really standoffish to drag as a performance art for a really long time. Because they would be doing their DJ bit and they'd be in full drag, looking gorge. And then somebody would walk in who might be, let's say, overweight, and that was acknowledged. And as somebody who I guess most of the queer community may have been picked on at school, for me, that was just a real sort of red flag of I want to fly under the radar and not have any of you notice me because you're probably going to pick on me and that's just going to make me uncomfortable, even when I was working there. So I guess my question is, how do you manage to keep the comedy alive with your performances without offending audience members?
It is a very hard thing to do because at the end of the day, no matter what you do, someone will take offense to something.
Truth.
No matter what you say or do, someone will find something to be offended by.
Not to mention those people who are probably just showing up anyway and just offended that you're a boy in a dress.
Oh, don't. I did shows at Chevron Island Tavern, and literally the regulars there, they'll be like, "Why the do we have these fucking men here in dresses parading around? What the hell's going on?" We still go out and have a good time because we're like, they're paying us to be here regardless, so I don't care what you think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it does become a lot harder, especially with today's. Sorry, I'm eating my hair as I'm talking.
No, that's fine. Munch away.
Not used to eating my hair. It does become a lot harder these days, especially. And this isn't me turning around saying, "Oh, everyone's a snowflake," political correctness. But it does become a lot harder because we become more mindful of not wanting to offend someone. And that's not a bad thing. Like, laughing at someone else's expense is no longer funny, if that makes sense.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, using someone else as the butt of the joke for the sake of the joke is no longer funny. So it becomes a lot harder to try and make what you do funny without offending people.
I also find self-deprecating jokes. Nowadays, like, they used to be funny when somebody would make fun of themselves, but now they just kind of come off a little sad.
Because it seems like a desperate attempt.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like you're reaching for the lowest hanging fruit. Like, you can generally tell from your gigs like how the crowd is and what they're going to respond to. So, for example, a couple of weeks ago, I did a bingo gig at Canungra with Martini, and we're trying to get everyone's attention at the very start because everyone's cheering, clapping. This one woman was just being very, very loud, and I just looked at it straight in the eye and just went, "You look like you say the word cunt a lot." And she was like, "Yes, love it. It's my favorite word." And everyone's like laughing, and Teeny just looks at her and goes, "You can smell it." And again, loved it. But like later on in the evening when we're playing bingo, so it was round 3 of the bingo, so everyone's had a couple of drinks. So we're calling it out, like number 7 comes up. I'm like, "Age I lost my virginity." And everyone's like, "Okay." And the next number was like 54 or something. I'm like, "And the age of the guy I lost it to." And everyone's just gone, "Oh." I'm like, "It's okay. It was George Pell." Silence. Oh. They all just went, "Oh." And even Martini just went, like, Martini's pissing herself laughing because she thought it was the most hilarious thing ever. But then she just went, "Well, that joke died, didn't it?" And I was like, "It's okay, people. I was only joking. It wasn't George Pell. It was my uncle." And again, silence. And I'm like, okay, so these sorts of jokes aren't working.
Those people in your background just understood your joke. They got it.
Probably.
They were here for it. Whoa.
But yeah, like it's hard now because you have no idea. Because I've used that joke before in other bingos, and it kills because everyone's like, "That's hilarious." So you really can't. It's really hard to pick and choose now as to what you can and can't joke about with different people.
I guess you never know who's sitting in your audience.
No.
I always remember watching a stand-up of Joan Rivers.
God love her.
God love her. She's amazing. And she told, it was a racist joke. And again, those people found it funny. It was a racist joke, and it was met with silence. And she just she approached the audience very abruptly on the microphone, and she was like, "Oh, calm down, get over yourselves. It's just a joke." And I get there is this old school humor of, yes, sometimes things are just a joke, but for some people, they're actually just they're not a joke.
It's not, because it's their life.
Yeah, they're living it every day, and they're faced with these things every day. And to us privileged white folk, sometimes things can just be a joke when it perhaps it shouldn't be.
And it's the hardest thing because, like, again, as you said, we may not be privileged in the sense of, rich, luxurious upbringing, but we're privileged in the sense that we got to grow up white.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, we got to grow up physically capable of doing things. We got to grow up, no physical deformities, no anomalies, nothing that made our lives hard, apart from being gay. But
even our generation coming, I mean, I know there's like 5 years between you and I, but even our generations, that being gay it was still difficult, but it wasn't as hard as it used to be.
No, not at all. But yeah, we're lucky enough that for us, when you look at the hierarchy of like social standings, like straight white men are obviously considered the top. That's slowly being changed, thank God, but yes, they're the top. Us being gay white men are literally the next one down. So we're just a step above women in that social aspect. And please, no one think that I'm saying that we're better than women. I'm just listing the way society deems that. So we're lucky enough that we grew up with that privilege of being
born with a penis and white skin.
Yes. Yeah, so we can, for us, we can make those sorts of jokes and it's just a joke. But I could never imagine, I had Aboriginal friends growing up because I lived in North Queensland, and I could never imagine how hard it was for them growing up because they were constantly the butt of the joke. Like, it's constantly the jokes are aimed directly at them. And like, you have to learn to laugh at it or it's going to crush you. And that's why so many people, for them, humor is such a sore point because they've been the butt of the joke for so long.
For too long. It's like, yeah, it's a horrible thing to have to live with. And I can relate, and I'm sure you can relate as being a gay identifying man, that we are also the butt of jokes. And yes,
Absolutely.
like you were saying, we're, you know, in terms of the societal hierarchy, yeah, we're higher up, but we've still been the butt of the jokes. And this is like
Absolutely.
when I would go into the gay clubs in which I worked and was on first name terms with the drag queens, whether they were in their queen personas or their you know, their you know, gender assigned identifying image, I would always still worry that I was going to be the butt of someone's joke.
Mm-hmm.
And I have people even now today, they're like, why do you care so much about what people think? And I'm like, because they're people and I'm a human, and I don't know them, but
I find myself still doing it today, in that it's because it's a ridiculously stupid thing that society ingrains in us, in that I find that I judge someone straight away based on how they look.
yep.
As soon as I see someone,
don't like doing it, but I know
No, I'm the exact same. Like, I know straight away. I look at someone and straight away I've made some sort of judgment based on that person, and I instantly go, you don't know who this person is.
Yeah, check yourself.
Yeah. Like, I'll do it all the time. Like, I'll just be walking along and I'll hear something and I'll look and I'll just instantly, I can feel myself. And I know I've got a bad poker face, so I know straight away my face has gone to like a judging them. And then I stop and I go, whoa, hang on. What am I doing? Like, who am I to judge this person? I don't know who they are. Just go about your day and just move on. And I know it's hard for a lot of people to do that because it's so ingrained in them to instantly judge, and then that's it. They've made up their mind about you straight away. Whether or not they know you, whether or not they want to know you, it's just, that's what it is.
And it's where it comes down to that age-old, I say age-old, new age-old narrative of just be kind. Be
Absolutely.
kind. And if you have those judgments, you know, it's actually okay to have those judgments as long as you're identifying that you probably shouldn't, and why am I having them, and trying to just do better next time.
Absolutely.
Again, but as long as those judgments are not vocal, verbal, or physical to the people, if it's in your own head, check yourself.
Yeah.
Ask yourself some questions. Find a center and be better.
You can never take back what you've said to someone.
Exactly.
Because regardless of how much you apologize, regardless of how much they turn around and go, it's fine, it's okay, that person is always going to remember.
Yeah.
Like, it's always going to remember. Because my favorite analogy is the one about the apple, where it's like the teacher, before walking into the class, has 2 apples, throws one against the ground repeatedly, but it still looks perfectly fine on the outside. Then comes into the class, puts that one apple on the table, tells the class to say horrible, nasty things to it, and then to the other apple to say lovely things to it. And then, like, what do these look like? They're like, oh, they look like apples. Sorry. The teacher then cuts both of them and goes, on the surface, they may look the same, but this is what it looks like inside based on what you've said.
It's such a beautiful analogy in the sense that it really highlights the unseen damage that we can do without knowing we've done it.
Words hurt sometimes more than physical pain, because at the end of the day, like, words stay with you. Like, you can be sitting at home and all of a sudden something that someone has said 5 years ago replays in your head and it affects you like that. Like, people don't understand that everything that they say to someone will affect that person and how they act with you for the rest of their life.
Completely. It's I think something that the majority of us on this planet can relate to, and again, we all just need to be kinder to ourselves and to each other.
100%. Oh my god, look at us going from being like all about drag to then deep philosophical, like middle-aged white women drinking wine, talking about life. And
damn girl, I feel like we've already got your soundbite done and dusted.